Well, thank you for staying with us here on KTN Business today. The news continues, and we start off in Wote town, where it is almost water secure after the commissioning of 2 treatment plants for the town. One constructed by the government of Makueni County and the other by the Kenya Red Cross Society. Now, the 2 plants commissioned by the governor, Kivutha Kibwana, and the Kenya Red Cross Society Secretary General Abbas Gulay have an output capacity of about 90 cubic meters of water per hour, but with an installed pumping capacity of about 70 cubic meters per hour. Now, Water Executive Committee member for the area, Robert Kisula, has said that the installation will be able to pump water for about 20 hours every day, guaranteeing Wote residents about 1,400 cubic meters of clean water.
As we all know, recently due to the floods, the water system here was affected and was damaged. And as Kenya Red Cross, we are in the business of disaster management and disaster response. And that is why we initially brought a small treatment plant that could do about 5,000 liters an hour. But we felt that because of the huge demand of water in this town of Wote, we designed a new product which is called Quat 50, which is a capacity of 50,000 liters an hour that we could actually treat and deliver this water. So we got 2 local companies that we worked with and Kenya Red Cross. So this was designed specifically for Kenya Red Cross. The first unit was commissioned and put up in Sabaki in Kilifi County. This is the second one now we're doing in the country, and it is now here. In a matter of 4 days, it was put up and running.
Makueni County has been one of the counties that have been affected, most affected in terms of flooding. Our feeder roads are no more. The water treatment plants have been washed away. We have lost life, and we have been working very closely with the governor and the county government. And we have a standing county disaster management committee. I think what is happening today is a milestone, and we really want to thank Kenya Red Cross.
The effort of Red Cross in terms of helping us to meet this water emergency, because after Kamunyolo Dam was swept away, it meant that water availability in water was extremely compromised. And so when we assessed our damages and from the floods, and we were one of the counties in the country which was very much affected, we made an appeal, and we talked to Red Cross as a port of first call. And Red Cross initially had said that they would help us even before the partnership with the national government.
Indeed, things they are looking up for residents in the area. Now to another water story, where President Uhuru Kenyatta has this morning launched the Rapid Results Initiative in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Now, this is part of the accelerated government project initiative that seeks to increase access to water by Kenyans from the current 60% to about 80% by the year 2020 and a further 100% by the year 2030. Now, Kenya is considered a water-scarce nation among the 8.3% of nations in the world that are chronically water-scarce.
The representative is Stephen Mapashi. If you could kindly come down.
The fate of our water resources is tied to that of our environment, more specifically to that of our forests. Simply put, protecting our environment will guarantee the continuity of supply of our water sources, and failure in this regard is therefore not an option. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude with these thoughts. As I indicated earlier, water is life. I therefore wish to call upon the leadership also of devolved county governments to give more priority to water and sanitation. As national government, we commit to continue to invest heavily in water storage dams across the country. But the last mile distribution and reticulation of water to our citizens is a function that rests with our county government.
Now, of course, that story there being inspirational and maybe aspirational now to something not so positive, where parts of the country continue to experience heavy rains, which have resulted in floods and landslides in some areas. Now, here's Raquel Muiga with an update on that from Nyeri.
We are here at Makueni in Makueni County, where the raging floods continue to wreak havoc, even as other people continue to feel its effects across the country. Where I am in Makueni now, at least there are no reported deaths or no reported injuries, but it has happened to interfere with the livelihoods as well as the normal nature or normal living lives of these families here. Where I'm standing, as according to the residents, they say that this is perhaps a safer ground. This is a safer ground compared to the rest. Where there is a puddle of mud, sort of, that is where the residents say that if you happen to step there, then you will apparently be sinking halfway through. And according to these residents, they say that this particular water, the waters that we are seeing pass through here are coming upstream. But remember, there is no river upstream. So they say that the waters have been passing in underneath and perhaps coming out through these rocks here, seeping even through the houses, damaging every property that they do have, interfering with also their farms. And according to the residents also, they say that yesterday, since Monday, there has been a lot of rain pouring here within the area, and also affected and also created a landslide within the lower side of this Makueni area. But right now, I'm joined by one of the residents here who has been affected by floods, who's just going to give us a perspective on exactly how all this happened. When did it start? Did they expect something like this, given that a lot of warnings have been issued since the floods began? Thank you so much for joining us here on KTN. Please tell us your name and tell us when did this rain start, and is it something that has been occurring frequently even during the rainy season?
My name is Ida. I received a phone call from my mom telling me how the rain is coming. Now I decided to come and rescue her. Now I've come to pick her. We go and stay at Nairobi. Yeah.
But I do believe that you grew up here. Is it something that this has been the occurrence, or is it something that has happened for the very first time, as some of the residents say?
No, I can say it's just a natural calamity because I've never seen this before. Yeah.
And probably so far, as you spoke to your mom, has she told you that there have been any government officials coming here or any aid whatsoever concerning the state of affairs here and how the houses have been damaged?
I heard there was, I don't know whether an MCA, but they were told to shift. Now we have to shift, there's nowhere to stay. Yeah.
So you've taken it upon yourself to take your parent back to where she'll be safe. Yes. It's a very difficult situation, I do believe, but very good of you to be able to do that. And apparently it appears that the residents who are here will not be able to they will have to make do with whatever has been given to them. But just to hear from some of them what it is that they have to say, tafadhali tueleze, labda kuna usaidizi wowote ambao umewafikia nyinyi, mmeambiwa nini, na labda mtu yote ambaye aliweza kufika hapa, chief, mtu yoyote, mliambiwa nini?
Walituambia tuhame, lakini hakuna mahali walituambia tuhamie. Sasa ndio tunashindwa tunahamia wapi? Hakuna mahali tunaenda. Ndio tunaenda kuenda huko kwa plot tukatafuta kanyumba huko.
Na tukiweza kuangalia nyumba yako ilikuwa imepata maji kote. Ni tangu lini ambapo ulianza kuona maji hiyo ikitoka pale chini?
Ilianza kwa lumu moja, ikatoka kwa hiyo lumu moja. Sasa nikaona danger kwa hiyo lumu moja juu hata hiyo nyumba yangu ni cemented na inatoka maji. Alafu siku hiyo ingine ikaanza kutokea kwa hiyo ingine, lumu hiyo ingine. Sasa imejaa kwa lumu zote. Kwa hiyo Tuesday, Wednesday ndio ilitoka kwa hii nyumba ingine hii ya my mother. Ikatoka yote kwa nyumba, huko kwa nyuma ya nyumba. Sasa maji inajaa kwa hapa huko kwa nje.
Na labda sasa mipango yako ni nini haswa, labda kando na vile wale ambao wamefika hapa wameambia mhamie mashule, labda mipango yako ni nini sasa ukiwa umesimama au ukiwa umeketi hapa, utakuwa ukipanga kufanya nini?
Sasa hata na shido na ile nitapaga juu, hata niko na ng'ombe hapa, niko na buzi. Sasa na shido hata nikienda buloti nitapeleka wapi hizo mang'ombe na mabuzi.
Well, tough questions there out of Nyeri County, and indeed the rain continues to pound and pound very hard. Now, the 90-day ban on logging in community and public forests has been extended by a further 6 months. The Environmental Cabinet Secretary Kivutha Kibwana says this is to allow the sector get back on its feet following unsupervised timber felling in the forests. Business owners have, however, expressed that this is expected to cripple what is left of their timber businesses.
For the hundreds of Kenyans earning a living from the timber business, the extension of the 90-day ban on logging in community and public forests for the next 6 months is a traumatic pain. The new order shattering the remaining rays of hope for the businessmen who had to endure major losses soon after the 90-day ban was first implemented on the 24th of February this year.
Kumekuwa pia unakupata customers watu wa constructions ambao zimepanda kwa sababu sasa sawmillers wanateta pesa miti yao ilifungiwa. They had already paid.
Tuseme sisi vile saa hii wamefuga miezi 6, tena njaa yetu itaongezeka, maisha yetu itakuwa mzito kwa sababu hata tukitokea kwa hii ngeti tunashindwa tutaenda wapi.
Joseph Mureithi dived into the timber sector business 6 years ago, one that happened to turn into a fortune, enabling him to support his family through the hard economic times. He, just like the rest in the industry, is reading from the same script.
Wakati moratorium iliingia tulikuwa na bank loan, na hiyo yote sasa hata hatulipi. Sasa ni barua imeanza, kama mimi nimeletewa barua tayari sababu ya kukosa kulipa instrument ya miezi 2.
In his timber yard, the deafening silence has now become normal. The section that was used to store piles of sawn timber now remains empty with pieces of rotten timber. The sawing machine lying idle, as if to parade its sharp blades, and ones that within the next 6 months may lose its worth.
Nilikuwa na wafanyikazi 6. Wale nilikuwa nimeandika na casual workers 3. Lakini wa sasa mimi nimebaki mimi peke yangu na kijana yangu.
For Agnes Wangoi, who is a manager at one of the timber yards in Nyeri, the ban, she says, will cripple what was left of her family's business. And even with harvesting allowed in private forests, the quality of the trees do not compare with those in the natural forests.
They don't actually dry up, or the joints don't come up or end up. It was mostly used from 8x2 and the 6x1 and 6x2s. Right now what is available, we are only having the 8x2 sizes, and you can't complete a bed without the 6x1 or a 6x2, and so it is so hard for us.
The initial 90-day ban was arrived at by the government to allow for reassessment of the management of the forest sector in Kenya, following serious concerns of wanton destruction of Kenya's ecosystem. The 6-month extension, according to CS Kivutha Kibwana, will allow the appointment of the new board of the Kenya Forest Service and the finalization of the interim reforms implementation committee. However, for workers and business owners in the timber business, it will be a bitter pill to swallow as they'll continue to count bigger losses. Raquel Muigai, KTN News.
Now, one of the important things to remember there is that the moratorium lasts 6 months, but it takes as much as 150 years for some of the hardwood trees to mature. Now, food for thought. Now, what exactly is the connection between the environmental degradation that we have seen, the moratorium on logging, and the aspect of, well, extreme weather that we have been witnessing lately? Now, that is one of the questions we put to an expert who was in our studio earlier on. She spoke to my colleague, Akisa Wandera.
So the government had initially banned logging in both public as well as private forests. And then a few months ago, the government reversed the ban just for private forests. But, you know, public forests are still, you know, under this ban for the next 6 months. And that means that basically, you know, there's not going to be any, you know, felling of any trees. And it's going to affect the supply chain of makaa and other wood fuels in the country.
So what are some of the alternatives that those whose lives have depended on this business and those who have been using charcoal from their day-to-day activities, what are some of the alternatives they can explore now, given that 6 more months for this ban?
Yes, well, certainly, I mean, I think that there's going to be some displaced jobs as a result of this ban. And, you know, this ban is just a teaser of what's to come further down the line. The world is moving towards, you know, a cleaner climate agenda. And as we know, Kenya is a signatory of the Paris climate deal, and we have to keep our greenhouse gas emissions under a certain limit. So whether this ban happened this year or it happened a couple of years down the line, regardless, I think that Kenyans and the wananchi who are involved in the trade of wood fuels are going to have to re-examine, you know, whether this is a sustainable line of work any longer.
But then should we also engage incentives like reducing the price of kerosene to get people to not use, to discourage people from using charcoal and felling trees?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, kerosene is an alternative. It's more expensive, you know, of course, than makaa. Kerosene retails, I think the latest statistics, it was about 78 shillings per litre, which is really pricey for the common wananchi. And so, you know, for our lighting needs and our cooking needs, at the moment, there's kerosene, but there's also clean cook stoves. I don't know if you've seen them. They have them in Nakumatt and in some of the other supermarkets, which is, you know, it looks like a jiko, but it's a much cleaner, more efficient way of cooking, which is much better for the environment. Of course, these clean cook stoves retail, you know, very expensively and are also not economically friendly for the lady who's perhaps cooking in her kitchen with her jiko. So, you know, there's an economic, you know, cost to this decision.
So then how do we step in to cushion those that live even below $1 a day from this?
Well, I mean, this is one of those, you know, government policy decisions that they're going to have to make. You know, what is going to be the direction for this country, especially in terms of cooking. Here in Kenya, our highest emitter of greenhouse gases is cooking. You know, a lot of people are using jikos, some are using just, you know, firewood directly. And this is not environmentally friendly at all. And so I think the government is going to have to examine how else can we provide Kenyans with an affordable fuel in which they can still have their lighting and their cooking needs met.
There are already fears that once this ban is out, even with this particular extension, when the 6 months are over and the ban is lifted, that those who have been in the business will do it extensively to just cushion themselves from some of the losses that they would have made in this period. What do you think?
Yes, that is a possibility. At the end of the day, they can also only work within the confines of what the demand is. You know, they can't supply beyond what the demand is. I don't see demand rising after the 6 months. I see demand, you know, staying along the same progression. And so in terms of the suppliers, you know, yes, perhaps some of them will, you know, market more aggressively. Perhaps others will, you know, look for new markets because, by the way, this ban also applies to exporting to neighboring countries. It's not just being enforced within Kenya. So, yeah, there could be some very interesting developments as a result.
But then, as you talk about demand and supply, that once this ban is lifted, maybe the demand won't be as much as it used to be a few months ago. But in terms of just ensuring that the citizens understand why this is happening, do you think there's need for public awareness on these are some of the alternatives you have? So stop using makaa, for instance, because these are the consequences when you do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You know, and again, this is the government's responsibility. Spread the message, you know, make sure that, you know, the common Kenyan understands why wood fuels are being displaced, how wood fuels are harming our environment, and what the cleaner alternatives are. You know, at the end of the day, all of us have a responsibility to reduce the wear and tear of the environment. Climate change impacts all of us, not just, you know, government officials. So we really need to be more cognizant of climate change, I would say, as a mwananchi. But at the same time, I think governments need to make policies that are directly in line with the needs of the average Kenyan. We understand that there are climate change obligations in, you know, international forums that the government has submitted to, but at the same time, Kenya is still a developing nation. we've not even industrialized. And so some of these fuels are perhaps the most economically viable case for the average Kenyan. So there needs to be a balanced approach between those two, policy decisions.
Policies that are in tandem with the needs and the capabilities of the common Kenyan.
Yes, yes.
How effective do you think this ban will be?
Well, I think that it's going to be pretty effective. Of course, sometimes there are issues regarding compliance. How are they even going to enforce this ban in, let's say, a forest, 800 kilometers off grid? How will they know somebody's cutting trees down there? Well, as part of the ban, they've also included a clause that those who are transporting even these wood fuels need to have a license and a certificate which states the origin of the wood fuels and states the destination, which means that you can be caught not just in the forest as you're cutting down trees, but on the road as these goods are being transported, which I think makes this a lot more enforceable.
So then do you think we are on the right path as Kenya in terms of going green and just ensuring that we maintain our forest cover?
Absolutely. I think Kenya is doing a very great job. Definitely on the African continent, Kenya has been a leader and a pioneer towards shifting towards a more climate-friendly economy. We saw this last year with the ban on plastics, and this year with the ban on logging. I think it's a very, very good move. Again, though, it needs to be enforced in a way that's aligned with the needs and capabilities of Kenyans.
Well, indeed, questions there, and indeed food for thought in terms of the upcoming budget. What sort of incentives should we see for what parts of the energy sector and for the consumer? Well, on that note, we of course are at an end for today here on KTN Business. But this being the penultimate show for the week, we of course expect that we'll be back again tomorrow with more from the world of business, and of course for the Trading Bell show here tomorrow, which of course is Friday. But from us here, it is Kwaheri Yakonana, and coming up in just a few minutes, be a KTN from the Swahili desk. Do stay with KTN News. My name is Peter Wakaba.